Hello and welcome, happy to have you here. This is part 2 of our hedge planting, so I suggest you watch part 1 first and then come back. If not, then I'll give you a quick recap soon. I mentioned in the first video that the trees with brown spots would be replaced. Well, they all turn brown more or less, so here arrives 25 new ones. It was super cold and windy this day, as you can see. It was the first day that actually felt like winter. I had my mom come over the same morning to have a look at the thuja trees. She has had a landscaping company my whole upbringing, so I have and I will be taking a lot of help from her landscaping our property. We checked the roots and the general quality of the trees and decided that they were okay this time. The first trees that we planted came already super dry and weak, and after the flooding we had all summer, they just didn't look so great by the end of it all. This time we are planting them almost right away. The first day we got the delivery, we took them out and placed them around the pallets. During the same weekend, we started planting them. We are removing the old thuja trees, and before we start planting the new ones, here's a quick recap. In August, we got the delivery. We were super happy and thought everything will go so well. We already had the trench dug out and the soil delivery was about to arrive. Then came the most rainy weather in over 50 years. What are the odds? So we had to spend the next coming weeks drain water from the trench and try to fill it back up with soil, which was a lot of exhausting work, and between work and storms and rainy weather it took us a long time. When it came to planting the trees, they already didn't look so good, but we planted them anyway. My mom suggested I contacted the company since they weren't the best looking when they arrived, so they sent us new trees with a lot of hassle, let me tell you. We planted 2 trees per meter since that's what the professionals suggest, and that gave us a 12-ish meter hedge. This time we wanted to do things a bit differently. So here we are 3 months later with new trees to plant. We had a lot of discussions how to plant them this time. We didn't really agree to things, which is normal, especially when you're so tired of a task and you just want to get it over with. We were also on a time crunch because this Saturday had great weather conditions for us to be working outside. On Sunday and forward, it was supposed to snow and rain and get really cold, and it still is a week later when I'm recording this voiceover. So I'm glad we got it planted in time. We ended up digging a trench, although this time it went really fast since the soil we filled the old trench with is a good quality and airy soil. Then we planted them spaced 20 centimeters more than last time, so a total of 60 to 65 centimeters between each tree. I will not show a lot from us planting since you have already seen this from part 1. Instead, I will get more into what we did differently and what we did with the old trees, etc. We initially thought the hedge would be around 25 meters. That is why we had the trench that length. We were also going to plant them more spaced out, but after researching, we went by the books and planted 2 per meter, even if it looked tight. But the idea behind this hedge is to cover our neighbor's white tent, and of course, as a bonus, the hedge provides a bit more privacy. With 12 to 15 meters, it did its job by covering the tent, but in a more of an aesthetic choice, we decided to space them more apart and elongate the hedge. We added 5 of the old trees that looked okay, which made the hedge about 20 meters in the end. I think. You will have the exact length in the title of this video, but it looks so much better now. These are the old trees. I thought to plant some of them on each end of the hedge, but decided to only plant them in the back, where you can see them the least. But here you can see we did a lot of it off cam, and how good does this look? You can see all the brown trees in the background. We patted the soil to act as a flat surface for the bark we will add later on, and on each side of the hedge is a trench to allow water to run down. And here you could see the 4 or 5 old trees that we planted in the back. So now that the hedge is finally planted and done, we need to do something with the old trees. Some of them do have potential to eventually grow over the brown spots, or perhaps I can use them in landscapes and plantings. So here we are looking through them, which to toss, which to keep. We have limited soil, so we can't keep all of them, but honestly most of them looks really bad, and thuja trees are slow growing, so they'll look like this for years, and I don't want something ugly in my plantings. We decided to keep the trees that had less than 30% of brown spots. In order to overwinter the thuja trees, we had to scrape up all the leftover soil to a pile. This method is called to earth up, I think, where you plant something directly into a soil or a compost pile or even into a bag of soil. This gives us time to think where we want them and to see if they even survive the winter. This was the 7 cubic pile of soil that got delivered this summer. This is what we have been filling the trench with, and the leftovers have been rained on and stomped on, so it was quite hard, but we managed to scrape up enough soil to earth up 10 thuja trees. Over here by the right-hand corner is the thuja graveyard. We laid down all the trees we couldn't save. They will be composted later on, but I think that saving a total of 14 to 15 of the old trees is quite an accomplishment.
Du slog ju också med i det här.
And hopefully they'll survive and even recover, so we can use them for something else this spring. I don't know if you can see it, but the roots on some of them had really started to take off, so that feels reassuring. These trees look bare on the bottom, but on the top they look quite good, so my thought is that hopefully it produces new growth on the bottom with enough love and care. Or this will be a survival of the fittest, and I'll plant them together with other plants. Perhaps they can be the background of our blueberry bushes, or I can plant a round boxwood shrub in front with some flowers around to cover the bare stems. We'll see. I see this as a bonus since we already have what we wanted out of these thuja trees for now. Now we can finally do a cleanup here in the front garden after months of looking very messy. I'll see you at the end with some final touches and before and after shots. Cue the cleanup music. It's a week later. The thujas has gotten a lot of water from the rain, but there is one final thing to do. I know this is not absolutely necessary, but since we planted them so late in the season and the roots won't have as much time to establish before the ground frost hits, I decided to put a protective layer of bark dust. Not only does this protect the stems and roots from the hardest frosts, but it also keeps moisture throughout the winter, but most importantly, during the first harsh sun in spring, and it slightly lowers the acidity levels as well. I also think it gives it a more polished look. I really like the look of bark dust in my garden.
Så här, det är som kettlebell.
Ja, det är ett riktigt muskelpass det där. Ja. Det är de här också kan jag säga. De här är också ganska tunga. I am adding a 5 to 7 centimeter layer, and I would do more, but it would raise the ground level too high for the thuja's liking. If you have space, do a 10 centimeter layer. Go ahead and water thoroughly before this to lock the moisture in. Luckily for us, it had rained a lot, so there is plenty of moisture in the soil by now. Here are the before and afters, showing you before we even had a hedge, and also the difference between the old hedge and the new. Let me know in the comments what you think of the changes. Do you think it looks better? I know some of the comments in the previous video said that they were too closely planted, and I agree on that. I am glad I ditched the rules and went by feeling this time. We can certainly call us experts on thuja hedge planting by now. Jokes aside, I hope it looks just as good or even better this coming spring and summer. Thank you for coming along. This is an officially closed chapter, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.